attention lawyer, judge, government, agent, employee, police, common man, etc. At all, any, all who serve as fictional legal name, title, I.D. entity, pronounced phonetically. Example, leg all. Enemy, name, title, Luciferian characters in the legal world reality. This is not the law. Author's note, where the author is defined as anyone who uses these words as theirs, where truth cannot be copyrighted, merely shared by agreement, and these words are theirs, regardless of who wrote the words AB in initio, where the truth belongs to all, in conceptual, heart and mind written, causal, not the physical written form, effectual, where this writing is written, spelled out in a language understandable to both those in and out of the legal name fraud. Profession, reality, where the common understanding of this fraud and against humanity and creation is visible both in the layman's and legal terms, not to be confused by the intent of the reader, where the authors, the intentions thereof, therein intentions are crystal clear, i.e. legal world wranglers and twisters of hearings, where it is spelled out henceforth herein with all potentials of phonic deceptions hereby and then for removed ad infinitum. For example, a phonics deception is where one thing is spoken by a non-B.A.R member, generally public. All legal name users without B.A.R affiliations, permissions, only to be respelled differently by all B.A.R members under assumption and presumption to corrupt the original intent of the one speaking versus spelling it out, and why a fraudulent by deliberate design legal name non-B.A.R member has no voice in the legal dead reality. In other words, one's words spoken cannot be altered from the speaker's original true intent as to what they mean versus what the one hearing the spoken form of the word hears, and then corrupts them and their spoken words by using alternative spellings under assumptions, presumptions of the same sound, homonyms with completely different definitions, using the spelling trick to undo them and gain the honor advantage where no honor in them exists, and the non-B.A.R member is rendered in a state of perpetual dishonor, unknowingly. Twist them, the non-B.A.R member speaking their spoken words, spoken backwards, around, opposes, negates, corrupts the speaker's original intent to imitate and perpetrate, instigate fraud against them to enable imaginary crimes to profit from statutory commercial rape, kidnapping. At all thus why court proceedings are called hearings, where spellings is more precise term for what is really going on. Thus, this is spelling it out clearly, where assumptions and presumptions is rendered null and void, where all use claiming to be legal name entity has everyone in the original sin, sign, state of fraud from the creation and continued use of the legal name that appears on every birth certificate until they remove themselves from the criminal legal reality, where anyone involved in the enforcement of this fraud using violence, trickery, coercion, etc. at all to ensnare with intent to enslave another is in fact aiding and abetting a criminal act by forcing another into submission to its use, where this truth has been exposed, where it is illegal to use all legal names, title, ab initio, all legal names, title, ab initio. A typical courtroom drama example: unwritten legal name, defendant mind, I do not consent, spoken with intent of no wish to consent. Intended where the bar member, also known as judge, lawyer, cop, etc., can and will presume in full honor the words phonetically as to how they want to hear it, and has repelled that verbal forball I do not consent, where I means yes. I do not consent. Affirmative and tacit agreement instantly do as it stepped. Tacit agreement not. As in tied and bound. Tacit agreement to slavery. Con means both with, for, and against, without, equally as prefix. Also means thief or criminal in common vernacular terms. C. Is Latin for himself, herself, itself, which is the entire essence of the speakers involved, and ent is a suffix meaning mind. Etymologically, in short, this one's perpetuating and profiting from this legal name fraud deception. It's a legal name fraud deception. Can hear whatever they choose to hear. Hear and can, will in full honor, spell every word uttered at every hearing, because it wasn't spelled out by the speaker in writing, where it can be respelled by the bar members' criminal intention to incriminate all innocent and guilty individuals equally, thus painting all humanity with the same criminal brush they've been painted with, and simply passing the buck to make a buck of sin, sign to another, rewriting by respelling the speaking word against them to create the bar member servant by out advantage every time in every legal reality situation. This deception, ruse, criminal enterprise is over, where truth itself is all the vengeance one needs. In a white flag state of truth, not surrender, stands and where all criminals perpetrating this crime against humanity are now fully exposed for all to see. It's legal to use a legal name. It's a legal fact. It's illegal to use a legal name. It's a legal fact. Clausula rebus sic statibus, as it pertains to birth certificates, any all contracts, treaties hereafter shown spelled as CRSS or in full, commonly referred to as the escape clause. In legal public international law, clausula rebus sic stantibus, Latin for thing standing, is the legal doctrine allowing for treaties, contracts to become inapplicable nunc pro tunc, where any all fraud revealed rendered any all contracts null and void, ab initio and infinitum, nunc proc tunc think pro. Nunc, no for then, for now, eliminating all time periods relating to the contract existence in the first place because of a fundamental change of circumstances, whereas it is illegal to use a legal name, birth certificate name, title, where the intent to create a fraudulent third party is evidenced in any all birth certificates by the very existence of the birth certificate as self-evident. CRSS is essentially and fundamentally proposed as an escape clause that makes an exception to a general rule of PACTASUNT. Servanda, promises must be kept, thus removing all previous assumptions and or presumptions, any all parties legal and otherwise to the contrary, where this fraud is revealed, because the doctrine poses a risk to the securities, aka money, or treaties / contracts, where those profiting from this by design fraud by exposing the intent to commit fraud, and those perpetrating it as it is scope, it is relatively / completely unconfined / without borders. It requires strict legal regulations as to the conditions in which it may be invoked, where only those claiming to be legal I.D. entities with a legal reality confines are concerned, and where one is no longer deemed as legal I.D. entity thereafter, since this is the last legal act in the common sense of the definition of one who was formerly deceived by the legal name birth certificate fraud, where it is now known to be fraud, where the one invoking this clause no longer wishes to commit legal name fraud, any claims against another whatsoever, while removing all traces of the former I.D. entity from theirs and everybody else's reality, regardless of the aiding and abetting attempt of, by, for, in, fraud by various crown corporations, agents to illicit, force, demand, coerce, etc. at anyone, all who have stated and shown otherwise. The doctrine is part of customary international law, but it is also provided for in the 1969 Vienna Convention of the Law of Treaties under Article 62, fundamental change of circumstance. All through the doctrine is never mentioned by name. Article 62 provides the only two justifications of the invocation of rebus sic stantibus. First, that the circumstances exist at the time of the conclusion of the treaty were indeed objectively essentially to the obligations of treaty. Paragraph A, and the instance where the change of circumstances has had a radical effect on the obligations of the treaty. Paragraph B. In short, the intent to commit, aid and abet fraud falls squarely on those perpetrating this legal name birth certificate fraud. Typically, anywhere anyone is being forced to enlist, impressed into service unwillingly, unknowingly, their child, truth, registrations of any all forms ab initio until dissolved or remains intact, willingly by any all who continue to be guilty in their own fraud by willfully using any all legal name / titles after the fact, where fraud absolutely is self-evidence, where this birth certificate fraud is in plain view. If the parties to a treaty / contract / have previously / currently done previously / currently contemplated / known all facts regarding the treaty / contract based on a full and open disclosure from all parties involved in the birth certificate BC contracts for the occurrence of the changed circumstances, the doctrine does not apply and the provision remains in effect, even through the full disclosure of the fraudulent intent of the birth certificate is a legal fact, and it is fully exposed, a known legal fact within the confines of the fictional legal reality, where those continuing to use said treaty, contract, birth certificate, legal name, I.D. entity render this escape clause null and void by / of their own hand and doing for willfully / knowingly continuing in its use after the fact, i.e. contempt of court, profiting from the avails of crime. CLAUSULA REBUS SIC STANTIBUS only relates to change circumstances that were never contemplated by one or more of the parties, since one or more of the parties involved to initiate / force enforce fraud after the fact, such contracts / treaties is knowingly / unwillingly. Ignorance is no defense. By / of / for / in commission / commission committing fraud with intent, regardless of claim made otherwise by any / all who are legally dead, fictional I.D. entities / bar members / crown agents, et al. Using this fraud to steal the life source of another in any way, shape or form. Also, it is clear that the fundamental change of circumstances justifies terminating or modifying a treaty / contract. The birth certificate contract is the deliberate set up to deceive the gifting party, male, female, creators of physical children, / intellectual spiritual names with intent to transfer the living child / children gamete intrafallopi and into a dead legal names word of admiralty / state, placing all contracting parties in a state of fraud, absolutely, collectively, a unilateral denunciation of a treaty is prohibited to any / all legal name fraud participants. Legal participants without B.A.R, Crown Corporation member permission, where the Crown Corporation agents, servants intent to commit fraud is self-evidenced by the very existence of it is self-evidenced by the very existence of registration / hospital at all offices trading in birth certificates, slavery, and must be done only on an individual choice basis to make this fraud known to any all Crown agents, or remain unknowingly fraudulent by the nature of the legal name, constructed reality, willing participants, any / all legal name fraud parties do not have the right to denounce a treaty unilaterally on behalf of everyone involved, where a non-legal individual to expose and which expose this fraud for all humanity to see, where humanity must make its own choices individually, where the birth certificate is unilaterally deemed fraud upon all humanity, notwithstanding as a fundamental flaw / mistake of all legal proceedings. It is a legal fact in the legal reality / fictional existence that this is illegal for everyone outside of a bar card, in which one must already be in fraud to enter law school, using a fraudulent legal name as one example of fraud regardless of sworn out using a fraudulent with permissions granted only to the titles attached to legal names, likewise to serve the owners / operators of the fictional Crown Corporation by willfully and unknowingly omission / commission of fraud, absolute consent to be act as lay claim to act in the role of at a legal name / legal entity / legal character as it appears in any / all books of the registrar. Registration, registre, dead Crown family I.D. Entity 3, whereby any all legal names, title, destination, ranks, corporations, all are in fact property of the Crown Corporation and use thereof without clear and explicitly present permissions by the legal owner or representative, then for such owner of all such said legal creation is illegal in every way, rendering such user in a state of instant dishonor in the eyes of the court, a fraudulent felon / criminal, regardless of the nature of any / all accusations made by any/all Crown Corporation representatives, bar cards/sworn oath or not, since they are in the commission of a fraudulent act, i.e. CRAFR, accounts, bonds, etc. Here in the doctrine it is spelled out for the reader/receiver clearly, and their lack of understanding this doctrine renders them incompetent. Thus, everything they take is a mistake ab initio, where fraud / is the intent of legal names, fraud ad infinitum, and obviously a criminal-minded heart is incapable of rational thought, where reasonable beings, insane, simply looks every reason under the sun to escape their own responsibility via legal is not reality. Legal means in their complicitness in these crimes against creation and truth until they decide otherwise. Simply put, criminals, destroyers of humanity, destroyers of life itself. I need to get out. You need to get out. This is by Kate of Gaia. I will come with the rest a little bit later time.